Imagine your mind is like a small garden. In youth, we plant anything flowers, weeds, random seeds of thoughts, worries, dreams, comparisons, regrets. We don't pay much attention. But as years pass, that garden grows wild. And in old age, we don't suddenly get a new garden. We simply sit in the one we have been planting all our life. That is why some elderly people sit peacefully with a smile on their face, while others sit in the same chair but carry storms inside their mind. Same age, same room, different inner world. The difference is not time, it is thought. Let me begin with something very simple. Have you noticed how weather outside affects your mood? When it is sunny, people feel light. When it is cloudy, something inside feels slow. When it rains, emotions become a little deeper, more reflective. Now, here is the interesting part: your mind has its own weather system, and your thoughts are the climate makers. If your daily thoughts are filled with gratitude, acceptance, and hope, your inner world becomes like a soft morning breeze. Even if life is not perfect, something inside you feels stable. You wake up and there is a sense of, yes, I can handle today. But if your thoughts are constantly filled with worry, comparison, complaint, or regret, then even a beautiful life feels heavy. Even in comfort, there is discomfort. Even in silence, there is noise. This is why two people can live the same life situation but experience it completely differently. One says, life is peaceful. The other says, life is painful. Nothing outside changed. Only the thinking changed. And slowly, over years, this becomes your default emotional climate. In old age, this becomes even more powerful because external distractions reduce. There are fewer responsibilities, fewer rushes, but the inner world becomes louder. So, if your thinking has been untrained, it starts to dominate your experience of life. That is why wisdom is not just about what happens to you, it is about how you consistently think about what happens to you. You may not control the weather outside, but you can always influence the weather inside. And peace in old age is not about perfect circumstances. It is about a mind that has learned how to stay calm even when thoughts try to create storms. There is something fascinating about the human mind. It is like a cinema hall that never closes. As we grow older, the mind develops a habit of replaying scenes from life, not always the happy ones, often the unfinished ones, the painful ones, the confusing ones. And here is the catch: we don't consciously choose these films. They play automatically, based on what we have fed our mind over the years. If daily thinking has been filled with regret, anger, or what could have been, then the memory machine starts selecting those clips more often. Suddenly, you are not living in the present, you are revisiting the past. I should have done this differently. Why did that happen to me? If only they had understood. And slowly, the present becomes just a waiting room for old pain. But if your daily thoughts have been shaped with understanding, forgiveness, and gratitude, then even memories change their tone. The same past events may appear, but they don't hurt the same way. They feel like lessons instead of wounds. This is the power of repeated thinking, it edits your memory lens. In old age, this becomes crucial because life naturally becomes more reflective. You are no longer chasing the future as much, so the mind turns backward more often. That is why emotional peace is not about erasing memory, it is about transforming your relationship with memory. A peaceful person is not someone who has no past pain. A peaceful person is someone whose mind has learned not to suffer every time the past appears. So the question is not, what did life give me? The deeper question is, how have I trained my mind to replay life? Because the mind will always replay something. Make sure it is not you're suffering on repeat. We often measure life by achievements: success, money, status, relationships, milestones. But life quietly teaches a deeper truth. You do not become what you achieve, you become what you repeatedly think about. Because achievement is an event, but thinking is a process, and processes shape identity. If every day your thoughts revolve around fear of losing, fear of aging, fear of being alone, then even success will feel insecure. If every day your thoughts revolve around comparison, why others are ahead, why life is unfair, then even abundance will feel insufficient. But if your daily thoughts are centered on acceptance, gratitude, learning, and faith, then even simplicity feels rich. In old age, this becomes very visible. Two people can have similar life situations, same family, same health conditions, same resources. But one feels peaceful, while the other feels constantly disturbed. Why? Because one has trained the mind to think peacefully, the other has trained the mind to think restlessly. And here is the subtle truth: we often underestimate the power of repetition. A single thought does not shape your life, a repeated thought does. What you think casually becomes what you believe deeply. What you believe deeply becomes how you feel constantly. So life is not shaped in big dramatic moments. It is shaped in small daily mental habits. That is why spirituality often emphasizes awareness of thought, not control of everything outside. Because the quality of your life is directly linked to the quality of your inner dialogue. And old age simply reveals what has been practiced internally for decades. There is a beautiful but slightly uncomfortable realization in life: you are never truly alone. Even in silence, there is companionship. But the companions are not always people, they are thoughts. And your repeated thoughts become your lifelong companions. If someone has repeatedly thought, "I am not valued, people don't understand me, life has been unfair," then those thoughts become familiar voices inside. They sit with you during meals, they accompany you in quiet evenings, they whisper at night, and over time they feel like truth. But if someone has repeatedly thought, "I did my best, life also gave me good moments, people are doing their best with what they know," then those thoughts also become companions, but gentle ones, supportive ones. In old age, this becomes very important because an external company may reduce. Children may be busy, friends may be fewer, silence increases. And in that silence, inner companions become louder. So the real question is not who is with me, it is what thoughts are with me. Because thoughts are not temporary visitors, they are long term residents of your mind. And like any residents, they shape the atmosphere of the house. So if your mental house is filled with resentment, it feels heavy. If it is filled with forgiveness and understanding, it feels lighter. And the most powerful realization is this: you have been choosing these companions every day without noticing. Many people believe peace will come when life becomes quiet. When I retire, I will be peaceful. When responsibilities reduce, I will be calm. Not when life slows down, I will relax. But life does not work that way. Silence outside does not guarantee silence inside. You can sit in a peaceful room and still feel restless within. Because peace is not an external condition, it is an internal construction. And what constructs it? Thoughts. If your thinking is chaotic, silence becomes uncomfortable. If your thinking is balanced, silence becomes beautiful. This is why some people enjoy solitude while others fear it. It is not about loneliness, it is about the state of their thoughts. In old age, silence increases naturally, and that is where inner preparation becomes important. Because whatever you have not resolved internally will become louder externally. Peace is not something you find at a later stage of life. It is something you slowly build through thousands of daily thoughts, through how you interpret situations, through how you respond internally to life, and through how gently you speak to yourself when no one is listening. So, peace is not a destination, it is a discipline of thinking. If there is one silent struggle many people face as they age, it is uncontrolled thinking. The mind begins to wander more freely, without structure, without direction. It revisits the past, it worries about the future, it questions the present, and slowly thinking becomes suffering. Not because life is unbearable, but because the mind is untrained. Uncontrolled thinking often sounds like, "What if things go wrong? Why did that happen to me? What will people think?" And the more these thoughts repeat, the more they feel real. But here is the wisdom: thoughts are not reality, they are mental events. And not every event deserves attention. A peaceful old age does not come from stopping thoughts completely. That is impossible. It comes from learning which thoughts to engage with and which to gently let pass. Like clouds in the sky, some you watch, some you ignore, but you do not become every cloud. The danger of uncontrolled thinking is not that it exists, it is that we believe every thought deserves belief, and that is where suffering begins. So, maturity in life is not about having fewer thoughts, it is about having a wiser relationship with thoughts.